We jump into this. I'm sure we'll get some folks joining in and out, and we'll keep our conversation this afternoon nice and fluid, fairly informal. We're super excited to welcome General Mizrahi to our call and discussion this afternoon. This is not your first time speaking with Israel Policy Forum or IPF Atid Young Professionals, Avi, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Really quickly, my name is Adam Bassiano. I'm the IPF Atid National Director at Israel Policy Forum, in normal times based in New York City. We are the young professionals community and program of Israel Policy Forum, nonpartisan policy organization dedicated to advancing the two-state solution. We work closely with our partners in Israel, the Commanders for Israel's Security, which is a network of former generals and commanders from across Israel's security establishment that Avi is a member of himself. So perhaps we'll hear more about their work throughout the call. I'm going to start off our conversation with really just two quick questions that will help General Mizrahi frame our discussion, and then we'll jump right into some discussion with you all. As you can see, everybody is fairly on board on the screen in terms of video and your ability to unmute yourself, so you can choose to interact as much as you'd like or as little as you'd like. We also have the chat function if you'd like to type in your question when we get to that point. I think that covers all of the housekeeping on my end, so why don't we jump right into it. I'll also add perhaps a caveat that there might be a few spoilers based on Fauda's season 3 or previous seasons, although we'll try to stay away from specifics for folks who have not watched all of it. I certainly have only watched a couple of the episodes in the new season, but we hope to connect some of the general plot lines and what you see in the show with reality and the experiences of General Mizrahi and his peers in Israel's security establishment. General Mizrahi, like I mentioned, is a member of the Commanders for Israel's Security, CIS as it's known. Formerly, he was head of Israel's, the IDF Central Command, which primarily focuses on West Bank security and IDF operations. He's also spent time across the IDF establishment, like was mentioned, in the Israeli Armored Corps as a brigade commander. And his storied career in the IDF goes back, I believe, to 1975. Feel free to correct me on any of my points, Avi, or add in some more of your own. But the first question I'll ask specifically relates to the security coordination between Israeli security officials and Palestinian security counterparts, which is a major theme throughout seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Fauda, and is certainly a major facet of reality. So can you comment on your experiences and how you see that security cooperation happening, perhaps during your time, but also extending to the present, where we're seeing certainly some unprecedented times with the coronavirus. But can you comment generally on the security cooperation there?
Yes, of course. Good evening, everybody in Israel. It's 7:30 in the afternoon and in the evening, and good afternoon to you in the States. Security coordinations between the Israelis and the Palestinian Authority with the security forces over there. It's a mutual interest between Israel and the PA. Unfortunately, it is the only channel that works from past 6 or 7 years between the Israelis and the Palestinians, since there is no chemistry and no trust between President Abbas Abu Mazen with our Prime Minister Netanyahu. So the only channel that works is the coordination between the IDF and the Central Command with the Palestinian security forces. As I mentioned, it's a mutual interest. I mean, they don't like us, and probably we don't like them, but we do understand together that in order to prevent terror attacks, it's for to benefit both sides. It's to cooperate and to try to prevent those Hamas extremists from carrying out the terror attack that they are planning all the time from the Judean Samaria area, from Gaza, and even from the jail. So talking about mutual interest, we are working through those days very tightly together in order to prevent those Hamas to do those attacks and to regain power in the West Bank for days to come. It's very difficult for both sides to understand that we are coordinating, but the results on ground is that we're preventing together many terror attacks. They have the security forces, they are locals, they live in the villages, in the cities in the West Bank. And we have the, I would say, the technology that the IDF and the Shin Bet, the Shabak, developed through the years in order to have the intel superiority in the area and to try to prevent those attacks. Everything is working due to the understanding from both sides that one day the peace negotiation will be resumed, and they have their hope and their vision for independent state. That's why, and I will elaborate on it later on, why we object the idea of the annexation by the former government, and unfortunately also for the new government that should be formed in the next weeks. So the way that we are coordinating the, I would say, operations in the West Bank with the Palestinians is between the brigade commanders throughout the West Bank, heading by the division commander who sits near Ramallah, who resides since Ramallah, and once a month in front of the CG and the general commander of the Central Command. In my time, it was in my office. We used to have two screens, one in Arabic, one in Hebrew, and we put the action items, and everybody said what he have done from the last meeting. And everything is about operations and activities in order to prevent terror attacks. But since we are working together, many other issues like humanitarian aid, some passages to Israel, to hospitals, some commercial activities that I forbidden from several materials to get in the West Bank because they can use it for to make explosive and things like that. Well, also discussed over there because I have the civil administration office with me, and we have this. We had some discussions also about the daily life in the West Bank, mainly for the Palestinians' benefits. So the nature of this one is the only channel that works between the Israelis and the Palestinians, even those days, is only this channel. And it's, as I said, unfortunately, we have to strengthen this channel, otherwise we can face some chaos and increasing in the terror attacks. The Hamas never went to sleep. I mean, they're planning every day. They have money. Unfortunately, part of the money comes from the states, from charity organizations, through Western Union wiring. We've put in our ends of some of those channels of money transferring, but not all of them. And the money is a big, or I would say the demotivator that enables the other side to carry out those attacks. For the Palestinians, it's clear that if Hamas take over the West Bank, those who are in contact with us, from the commanders to the last soldier or police officer, they won't be safe, not them and not their families. So when I said that it's a mutual interest, they have a very, very high interest to prevent those Hamas leaders to take over the West Bank.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Definitely covered a lot, and I hope in our Q&A we'll circle back to some of those points. My second and final question on my end, you touched on, and I believe shared some of this with the Israeli press earlier today. You said you were interviewed on Shin Bet, Israel's national radio, but connecting this topic of Israeli-Palestinian security coordination with the new development that on July 1st, the new national unity government just signed kind of into agreement earlier this week, will move forward with the process of annexation. Can you speak specifically about how that would affect, in your eyes, that vital cooperation? As you mentioned, it really is the last or only piece of cooperation between the two sides.
Yes, I think this is a very crucial question, because this issue about annexation, the West Bank, part of the West Bank, to do it under agreement or unilaterally to do it, it's the main issue and the main debate among the Israeli society. Now, I don't want you to understand that I'm saying that I will object this annexation. What we are saying is that at least if you are going to do such a major step that can, I would say, jeopardize the entire Zionist vision about Jewish state with a Jewish majority and a democratic state. I mean, annexing the West Bank with 2.5 million Palestinians can cause us a lot of problems. And I would say, let's put aside the bloodshed that might arise from this law that we will bring to the Knesset and will pass the bill. I'm saying about the nature of our country and the Zionist vision about when they will establish this the Israeli state. Now, it's very complicated because there are some people among our leaders that they might think, and they are saying it out loud, that they can control the consequences which will rise from this annexation. And we and we're saying that there is no way that anyone can predict what is going to happen, because the leader of these events won't be the Palestinian Authority and their government and their president. It will be the street, the people in the streets. And when they start, they will take with them the entire government, the Palestinian government, because they cannot stay aside and see their people fighting with their silence. So they will lose control rapidly. That's our assumption. And when they lose control, it means that they will stop the security coordination that we are enjoying those days. And in two cases, they can stop it, and then the IDF must take care about the security over the West Bank. It means including area A and B. And it means that we have to reconquer the West Bank from north to south, and to control the life of 2.5 Palestinians again. That's one thing. The second issue It's what's going on in our neighbors from the east, Jordan. We have a peace treaty with Jordan, and this peace treaty lasted for more than 2 decades. Now, the king is, I would say, understands us, but also 70% of the Jordanians are Palestinians. So when the streets over there also go out for riots, the king cannot stand and say, I'm not part of it. And he might cancel or postpone or whatever the peace treaty with Israel. Now, I'm not afraid from the Jordanian military or army. They cannot harm us. But mistakenly, you know, from geographic point of view, when we teach our students in the elementary school or in the high school, what is the border between Israel and Jordan? Everybody tells you it is the Jordan River, which is true. But the real border that we have to secure is the eastern border between Jordan and Iraq. And who is there? It's not the Iraqis, it's the Iranians. And the Iranians are looking to have a land passage from Iran via Iraq to Jordan to confront us in the border. And we are dealing with this border for the last few years in a secret ways, but we are dealing with it with the Jordanians and with the Americans. Now, jeopardizing the peace treaty with the Jordanians won't be a smart move from our side. And it can happen. And we are not just saying things out loud. We are sure that something will happen over there. So what we suggest to the Israeli government is, first, if you would like to annex anything from the West Bank or the entire West Bank, please put some committee from the national security, head of national security or the IDF or the Minister of Foreign Affairs or whatever. Put a committee, do a research, come with the consequences, show them to the cabinet, show them to the government. I'm saying also show them to the Israeli society, and then make your decision. What's going on right now, it's just a political and I would say nothing behind it except politics, that they are saying that because they want the vote of their bases. So there's no work, research has been done, except the one that the Israeli, our organization did, hundreds of hours of work in order to put a paper saying, look, that's what we think will happen if we do it unilaterally, this annexation. And that's what I've said today to the Israeli people via our national radio. At least that's what they owe us as citizens of Israel, to explain us if they got this decision and this law, just explain us what are the consequences, and they are going to do it. I would just say one thing. If you are ruling 2.5 Palestinians in the West Bank, the cost of it for the Israeli people will be 55 billion shekels a year, okay? Just imagine yourself in this COVID-19 situation that our intensive care beds will be taken by Palestinians. It's impossible. And I think that the Europe and other countries that nowadays donate money to the PA, they won't do it because it's occupied by the Israelis, it's occupied territories. The end of story of it, it can go to two ways. First, if we annex the entire West Bank, it means that we have to give full rights to the Palestinians. Full rights means vote to our parliament. It means that the parliament you won't see the same that you are saying nowadays. Let's say the Israeli Arabs have 15 mandates in the parliament out of 120. If the Palestinians are coming with them, it will be like 40, 45. I mean, it's a different parliament, different laws and everything. And if you don't give them these full rights, including voting to our parliament, it means that you are becoming an apartheid country like South Africa. And we know what was the end of South Africa. So, I mean, no one wants to be there, but everybody thinks that he is doing the best of his abilities to the best of our country. You know, you want to annex the West Bank, and you will bring us not to two-state solution, but to one-state solution instead. So, you know, I can tolerate that they are going to have 36 ministers. I cannot tolerate that they will have this annexation without studying it and without telling us what are the consequences and how they are going to deal with them.
Thank you, Avi. I'd like to open the floor for related questions, comments relating to anything we've covered so far, whether...
Adam, one word about Fauda.
Sure. More than one, however many.
No, just one word. I've watched only season 1, episode 1. That's it. Why?
Why?
Because when I've seen it, I was so angry that they will reveal all our secrets. And you know, our Duvdevan unit and the Avi Mizrahi was a company commander in this unit. So he knows exactly how we operate. And I was with them in few operations inside A areas, and I saw that they're brave men and brave people. I'm telling you, I was, and still, very proud of their actions and their braveness. So they put everything in the open, and it causes us a lot of problems, and we have changed our tactics and methods in order to find some new ways to fulfill our missions, operational missions, and I was very angry. So I don't watch it, but it's a good serial. It's a good program.
Interesting. Sounds like it is accurate then. Yeah.
Unfortunately, too accurate. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Hi, Avi. I have a couple quick questions for you. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us. You know, your insights are always very interesting, kind of helping to frame the debates. I was wondering if there's any open source and public information on what you were talking about with the potential Iranian land bridge through Jordan. That was the first time that I had heard about that, and it seems like something that I'd be interested to kind of dig more into. And then secondly, when it comes to the security cooperation, has there been any attempts to kind of bring that from the tactical level up to the strategic level to act as a model for other kinds of cooperation for other issues between the Israelis and Palestinians?
For the first question, you won't find anything in the, I mean, unless someone revealed something, because it's doing under the radar to keep this border secure for us. So, but we are working over there in several ways, and we are not alone. We have very good friends in your country, anyway. So we are working on it. For these, to take the security coordinations to the strategic level, we need trust between the Israeli government and the PA, and I would say especially between the Prime Minister and the President of the PA. It's going to happen in their terms. They don't trust each other at all. I mean, I would say that the way that they think about each other is like enemies. So there's no way that something will rise unless there will be some changes in our side and their side. So we have to wait. And unfortunately, as I said, the only channel that works nowadays with the Palestinians is this security coordination. And the word is security coordination, not security collaborations, because in Hebrew, collaboration is mashtaq. It's a very bad word in the Arab world. like they are snitches. So we don't use this word.
Hi, General. This is Julian Letterman. I'm living in New York, and I chair IPF Atid's chapter here in New York. I actually just spent several months in Israel. I just came back a few weeks ago. And maybe it's only the people I'm talking to, and I'm really happy if you tell me that I'm wrong, but I get a sense that people call it I'm not sure about maybe the above 40 generation, but kind of the below 40 generation. A lot of the people I talk to and are friends with and family, by and large, they don't know about the security coordination. And incidentally, I think some of the people that do, they actually refer to Fauda as one of the ways that they know about it. And I'm just wondering, do you agree with that it's not widely known by the Israeli public? And then secondly, maybe is there an opportunity to bring that to light? I'm sure maybe Bibi does not want to play that up too much because that wouldn't necessarily work with his larger narrative. But I think maybe there's other organizations that could play that up, because one of the biggest accusations is we don't have a partner for peace. And that may be true to a certain extent at certain levels of the Palestinian government and society, but at least in the security apparatus, it seems like there is a fairly good partner, albeit maybe not perfect. So just to recap, like, do you agree that the Israeli public by and large doesn't really know about this? And secondly, do you think there is a way that it can be brought to light in a way that could actually help be one of the foundations of establishing a partner more publicly?
Well, I don't have a clue about the understanding or the young generation Israeli, what they know and what they know, what they don't about this security coordination. Some people see the facts as fake news. So it's a problem when this is actually what happens and they say it's a fake news. I numbered many times in the Israeli TV and the Israeli radio some examples. How do they help us to prevent terror attacks? And if, God forbid, a terror attack took place, how we solve it with them. Yes, we could have done it without them, but it will take more time and more effort from our side. So it should be in light. It should be at the open, but we don't have it as a secret. From time to time, you can hear about it from our IDF leaders, and from time to time from reservists as myself in interviews that we do. So, if the young generation listen to it or not, I don't know. But this is a fact, it works. Yes, for our government, it's, to say that the Palestinians are doing something, in our benefit, it's very, very difficult to say so, but those are the facts. So I think, like you, I think it should be more, the word should be distributed over the country that, yes, we are working with them. But, you are trying to convince someone that did something that, okay, it's there. If you don't want to recognize that it's there, if, let's say, you don't like them and you don't think that they can do any good to us, so you just put it aside and said, look, it's all, again, something that the left party in Israel is suggesting to the Israeli people, and it's a fake news. But I don't think this is the real issue for our young generation in the country. I think the annexation is the annexation of the West Bank. This is the debate, and we should understand, and we must understand what can happen in here, because after, if we do so, it's very difficult to me to say there is no way to go back. It will be very, very difficult to go back.
I have a question. I'm sure, sorry my camera's not on, but I was the IPF intern last summer. And I know obviously peace is really important, two-state solution is very important, but as long as Hamas is active in the West Bank, do you think a two-state solution is possible, especially when they're trying kind of to sabotage the efforts made by Fatah and made by the PA to create a two-state solution?
It's a good question, Shiraz. I think they're suppressed. Now, if they raise their heads during peace negotiations, it's always happened in here. And we have, excuse my language, we in the IDF, in the Central Command, we always had the statement that when peace talks are taking place in the region, we have to clean the pigeons' shit in our area, okay? And excuse my language again. It's always been like that you negotiate with them and there are terror attacks and you should, and Rabin said so, you should negotiate with them. Like there is no terror, fight terror, there's like no negotiation. The Hamas are not, I mean, they have the mind and hearts of the people, but they are not strong enough to take over unless this security coordination will demolish and we will leave the West Bank. I mean, part of it, it's that we have intel superiority in the region. And we do every night arrests, every night, 2, 3, 4, depends, every night. So we keep their, I mean, we mow the lawn, as we said, and we keep it very low. I don't think that they will take over if we will reach an agreement with the PA one day. They can, harm us and harm them here and there, but they cannot jeopardize the entire process. That's my thinking.
Hello, General Mizrahi. This is Jonah from Boston. Thank you for your time. I have a couple of quick questions. My first one is kind of related to Julian's about the coordination with the Palestinian security forces. My first question is, do you know off the top of your head, like relative to the IDF, how much of the security work the Palestinian security forces have, like the amount of the arrests they do, the amount of terrorist attacks they thwart on their own? Because that could give us like a good sense that if, God forbid, you lost the security coordination with the PA, how much more responsibility the IDF would have. My second question is, again, you've been talking about how you and a lot of other people in CIS are wary of annexation, but as we know, the incoming Israeli government has a lot of officials who are supportive of annexation. And my question is, how would you describe your relationship with the Israeli officials who are supportive of annexation? Because I would figure they would want to take the advice of Israeli generals like yourself into account. So if you don't mind me asking, how exactly would you describe your relationship with Israeli officials who are supportive of annexation, and why is it they're kind of like not heeding your advice?
All right, I don't have the exact numbers, but in general, I would say that if we prevent every year about 350 terror attacks, terror attempts, I would say 1/3 of it belongs to the Palestinians. And if they disappear, we have to about to double our troops in the West Bank. It means that we have to deploy the entire regular army in the West Bank instead of getting training and getting ready for the serious challenges that we have in Syria and Lebanon and Gaza. About the officials. Look, we lectured Netanyahu 2 years ago about the study that we have done for the consequences of the annexations. Now, Netanyahu is a very intelligent man. I don't support his party, but he's a very intelligent man. And he listened very carefully to us. And I think that he, by himself, he understood very well what's going on. How do I know? The proof that I have, and Mike can, confront me on that, said, okay, so what? I'm saying that the last 10 years was a right party ruling the government of Israel. The last government had they were the rightist government ever in Israel. So why they didn't annex the West Bank? They could have passed it in the Knesset, in the parliament. He didn't do it because Netanyahu by himself, he understands the consequences. Now, he has a right party right to him with Mr. Bennett and Ayelet Sheked. And they are like all the time are challenging him from the right. So he has to keep up with them. But he knows how not to cross this a very thin line between doing the annexation and, you know, talking about it and doing it. It's two different things. And, you know, I believe that they, even now with the very, I would say, hugging and very supportive president in the States, like Trump, they won't do it. They won't go so far because they do understand the consequences. But, you know, it's good to talk about it. It's good to have the votes of the settlers over there. It's give you 5-6 mandates. It's nice to have, maybe 10. So it's nice to have. So they will keep talking about it. But the facts are that in the last 10 years, and they were in power, they didn't do it. So they do understand it. You know, I was very disappointed from Mr. Gantz and my boss at that time. Two of them were my chiefs, Benny and Gabi. I was very disappointed, and that's what I said today on the national radio. If they negotiated Netanyahu like rookies, okay? So I can understand it. They are not politicians, they are military people. They came from a different culture. So he might manipulate them, but they do understand security and they do understand military aspects and they understand very well what can happen if we annex it, you know, unilaterally the West Bank. And I was very disappointed that part of the agreement is that they will not object it while it will come to the vote. But, you know, future will tell us if I'm wrong or right. I don't think it will come to a vote.
Thank you. I'm Alexander. I'm calling in from Europe. I actually had a question.
From where, sorry, sir?
From Europe.
Europe?
Yeah.
Where?
I had a question similar to Jonas. Do I understand that you're pretty confident? I think like most observers of Benjamin Netanyahu would say that he is indeed like naturally risk averse, that he will not venture into any situation that may carry risk, especially if it's his own position as prime minister that's at stake.
It's not anymore.
So are you confident now that he won't do what he has refrained from doing in the past? And would that mean that the pressure from the right, from Yamina, is irrelevant, also in the light of Netanyahu's efforts to remain in power and away from troubles in court? And then I had a second question related to Fauda, to get back to it. Just a curiosity, are you taking any legal action against the makers of the series for divulgating secrets? Thanks.
I'll answer the second question. No, by myself, I'm not doing anything, and I don't think that anyone did something in this matter. The only thing that I took to court is the actor, the Arab actor Muhammad Bakri, that he produced a film called Jenin Jenin after the Intifada, suggesting that me and my soldiers that time, I was a division commander at the time, in Jenin, I was wounded over there, that we killed innocent people over there, and we ran over with our tanks 20 youngsters over there, and that we raped their women, and we shot an elderly people without reason, things like that. So this is the only legal action that I took that time, and still 17 years, it's still in court because we are democracy, and they say that the right of speech and expressing yourself, it's stronger than the film, but we are still, now we are prosecuting him for 2.5 million shekels. That of course, if we win, we will donate it to the families that lost their dear ones over in the fight in Jenin. So this is the only one that I'm taking care right now. According to Netanyahu, I don't know. I don't have confidence at all that something good will happen in this country if he's still in power. But that's my own judgment. I think that after 13 years in power, he should give someone else the keys and let someone else to lead the country. But, he was successful to form the 5th government of himself with Mr. Gantz and Ashkenazi. And we'll see. For the first time in the last 13 years, there is an expiration date for his prime minister term. But, no one in Israel believes that he will step out. We do believe that he will find a way to break it again and go to elections in the next year. But, I'm not a prophet. We will wait and see.
General, thank you very much for coming to speak. My name is Alex, and I'm an undergrad based in Boston for the time being. My question is, in these conversations that you've had with Americans interested in this conflict, what is the biggest misconception that you see that we have about what Israelis want, and regarding not necessarily the Israeli government, but the Israeli public, what they want out of their foreign policy, and about what actually drives Israeli foreign policy at the highest level?
Well, Alexander, you have to ask it Mr. Trump and his team suggesting the deal of the century. It means that they don't understand us, not us and not the Palestinians. I mean, you cannot cut a deal only saying that, we will support you with the economic measures. And that's why nothing happened. It just was a declaration. Nothing happened, nothing will happen, because you need both sides for a tangle. If you get in favor of the Israeli side, and I'm very proud of it because I'm an Israeli and I don't give a shit about the Palestinians, but I do understand that I need them in order to bring some peace to this area. So we need to work with them. If you need to work with them, you cannot take all your advantages and say, okay, I don't care. You have to compromise. And you compromise, so you win some, you lose some. That's the way to do it. The way it was suggested, there's no way it will happen. No way. Unfortunately. Yeah, because it's not a two-state solution, it's something else. Now, maybe it's about time to understand and maybe let them understand that the two-state solution dream is passed away already, and let's think about something else. But again, you don't need the Israeli and the Americans to agree upon. You have to bring the Palestinians to the table and let them agree. And if you saw the ceremony in the White House a few months ago, it was Netanyahu and Mr. Gantz and Mr. Trump. No one from the Palestinian side was present there. So you need them. Unfortunately, you need them. So we need them. Yeah.
All very good questions. We still have some time if anyone has any lingering questions on your mind or any comments on what we've heard so far.
I would elaborate a bit about the situation, right? The current situation that we have in the country. You see, the coordinations that we have right now with Gaza, for instance. Gaza is like a huge jail. No one come in, no one goes out. I mean, they are blocked into it. Because of COVID-19, and there is no one in, no one out, they maintain a very low numbers of sickness and low number of mortality. Now, we have over there from the last operation in Gaza in 2006, 2000, when was it? 2007, I guess. Tzuk Eitan. We have over there two dead soldiers that their bodies are detained by the Hamas, and 3 living Israelis. One of them is a Bedouin from Marat that are captured by the Hamas because they crossed the border by themselves to Gaza. So nowadays there is very interesting, I would say, talks between us and the Hamas. Even though we are saying that we don't talk to a terror organization, we do talk, and by mediators, but we do talk. And the deal is that we will support them with our technology and our machines for intensive care, and they will release some intel photos and things about our soldiers and citizens. And second step will be that we will release some women and some elderly and sick people from Israeli jail, and they will return back our people. So since COVID-19 broke out in the Middle East, there is no rounds and missiles passing from each to other side, only talks. So it's good. Maybe the only thing that it brought to us is that we are not fighting right now with Gaza.
It's definitely a silver lining. One quick question that's related and connected to Fauda, with the new season focusing on security threats from Hamas in Gaza. What's the coordination internally like within the IDF and security establishment between folks focusing on the West Bank and the IDF desks and departments focusing on Gaza? Is there very close coordination? Because there are some interesting dynamics in season 3.
As I told you, Adam, I didn't watch it, so I don't know what you're talking about. But if there is, as someone suggests, there is any kind of coordination between the IDF and the Gaza Hamas militias, it's untrue statement. We do have, we are working with them by the Civil Administration Office with the officer ranked colonel who takes care about what's going on in Gaza, what kind of goods are going in and going out from Gaza Strip. And of course, from humanitarian point of view, if there's some cancer people that need some treatments in Israel and other illnesses, we do help them. But there's no military or security coordination, not at all, between us and Gaza. The only connection between Gaza and West Bank, Palestinians among themselves, is the funds that the PA passes every month to pay the salaries of the officials in the education, healthcare, and things like that in Gaza. And the funds and the instructions that Hamas delivers to his people in the West Bank in order to carry out mainly terror attacks and to do some riots, things like that. So they got the instructions and the funds from Gaza and from Hamas. And that's the only thing that I think works. There is no passages between people from the West Bank to Gaza and back and forth. There is no way, it's blocked.
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally separation between both those territories.
And specifically at the IDF department that focuses on Gaza and the IDF departments that focus on the West Bank? Is there very close IDF coordination internally?
Yes, because we have to share the intelligence between both sides, because we need to cross the intel that we got. We have the Southern Commander and the division, the Gaza division, that's their mission, and we have the Central Commander and the division that takes care about the West Bank. The Civil Administration Office, there is a branch for Gaza, and there is a branch from the West Bank, headed by a Major General, that he is kind of the a representative of the Israeli government for the PA, for the Palestinians.
Thank you. I think one final question we got via chat is regarding how the current coronavirus situation has impacted specifically Israel's tense relationship with Iran and Iranian activity. Is it still a very tense situation, or has it quieted down amidst this new reality?
If I heard correctly in the news this morning, they have launched a new satellite this morning, today, to head to space. So, they are doing their business, we're doing our business. I think that their situation, according to the coronavirus, it's very, very bad. I think that we think that they're hiding the numbers, the real numbers, about the mortality range over there, the ranges and the numbers. Since the sanctions are very heavily on them, so I think that their economic situation is very bad, but still, they probably pass less money to Hezbollah, and they have less attention to their activities in Syria. By the way, according to foreign sources, it has been attacked 3 days ago in the border of Syria and Lebanon. Of course, they're accusing us, accusing the IDF, but I cannot comment on it. Anyway, so the activities are going on. So there's no, you don't measure a tense between countries due to a situation that occurs. It's a long venture, unfortunately, and we need to take care to understand that they don't reach the nukes and their vision to settle down in Syria and to open a new front against Israel. That's what we are busy those days. Thanks God, our soldiers, we don't have too much COVID-19 sickness among our troops, very little, no mortality at all. So, they're ready to execute their missions.
Interesting. I will turn it over to my colleague, Emily, to close us out.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Yeheskel. I'm IPF Atid's National Organizing Fellow. I just wanted to take a time to thank General Mizrahi for joining us today. It was really interesting and a great conversation. And thank everybody else for joining us as well. If you are interested in reading more about annexation or are looking for other resources, IPF has an annexation watch website where you can find more resources there. So we can post the link in the chat. And we have a Sunday brunch roundtable coming up this Sunday at 1:00 p.m. With the Alliance for Middle East Peace, Meet Kids for Peace, and the Arava Institute. So you can join us for this Sunday brunch and roundtable to connect with thought leaders and other professionals on the current COVID-19 situation, the Partnership Fund for Peace, and other topics of interest. We'll post the link in the chat for that as well.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be in touch, and feel free to be in touch with us back. Thank you again, General Mizrahi.
You're welcome. Be safe over there with your COVID-19 over there.